Welcome to the Chamber's Elevated Conversations podcast. And now, your host, Dave Eckmann.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of Elevated Conversations. I'm your host, Dave Eckmann from the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce. And first, want to extend a Happy New Year to all of you in this January 2021. With us today is Dr. Mathew Aschbrenner from the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin. And Doctor, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. Greatly appreciate it.
You bet. Wanted to really connect to your organization. You know, I drive by your building every day. I happen to be your neighbor, so I work on this side of you, but then I live on the other side down by River Life, and I walk by it nearly every day, your Eye Clinic of Wisconsin. And the parking lot is full up and down. And you guys are doing great things. Before we get into the eye clinic proper though, where are you from in Wisconsin?
So I originally am from Wausau. I grew up in Wausau, Wisconsin, born and raised. My parents still live in the house that they raised me in on the northwest side of town. I'm kind of a rural kid in that I grew up in the town of Berlin. I'm from a farm family that has a pretty extensive farming background. My father was in manufacturing and my mother's a surgical technician. In fact, my mother's still working at Aschbrenners. She's been there since 1971. So this July will be 50 years. And she still works part-time with them. So my mom's interest and passion for healthcare is what drove me to be a physician. I got to work with my mom during the summers, and as part of working with her, there was a period to meet Dr. John Hattenhauer when I was in high school. And then I also went to high school with George Whittemann's daughter, one of his daughters, and after graduation, George and I had a conversation, and he invited me to come work at the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin, so I did so as a technician for 2 summers, and then I've always had a thought process of coming back to Wausau, and that came to fruition in 2012 when I was finally done with all of my education. My wife is from the greater Milwaukee area, so we knew that we wanted to be in the Midwest, and based upon all the practices that we're hiring at the time, it just fit to come back here home to Wausau. So I've been working at the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin as a physician since 2012. My first stint with the Eye Clinic was in 1999, so I took a brief layoff to go finish my education. So I've been here ever since 2012. It's the first job that I've had out of training, and I'm now one of the 9 partners who also sits on the board of directors. And meaning my wife and I, very much have called Wausau our home, and we enjoy the area.
That's terrific. So Berlin, meaning you probably went to Wausau West?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm a warrior.
All right. Okay. Well, that's terrific. And you mentioned your father was in manufacturing?
Yeah, my father worked at JARP Industries. He actually worked for a period of time at Wausau Homes. And so the whole kind of late 70s, early 80s crash of the housing industry, my father was laid off for a bit. And then shortly thereafter, he was able to work with John Kraft over at JARP Industries. And then he finished his career there. He worked, I believe 10 years ago is when my father retired. He was one of the production supervisors on that team. And so, I get a little bit of manufacturing / business background in me, tied in with, a lot of healthcare for my mom. Most of the dinner time talk was crazy operations that my mom experienced during the day. And I just thought it fascinating. And, I'm glad that I chose a career as a physician. Being a physician, I never realized how much business was associated with it. And I think a lot of doctors end up working with major medical groups because they have no desire to be part of the business aspect of it all. And I found that since graduating and being here, the business end of running the eye clinic is somewhat enjoyable to me. And that's kind of, why I've continued to be here. And, I'm happy that the clinic continues to thrive after nearly 60 years. The Eye Clinic of Wisconsin is going to be celebrating their 60th anniversary in 2023. So 1963 is when Gordon Backer first laid the shingles down. And it's crazy that 60 years later, we've grown into such a massive, healthcare provider. When I got here, and I think that's still true today, the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin is the largest private practice ophthalmology group in the state. So the Medical College of Wisconsin and the University of Wisconsin at Madison has more physicians than us, but of course they're, essentially partially publicly owned through the universities. And so we're still a big player of eye care, not only in north central Wisconsin, but all of Wisconsin.
Yep. So you grew up here. You went away to school. Where'd you go?
I went down to Madison for undergraduate as well as for medical school. And then my residency took me out to Chapel Hill, North Carolina. Residency is a 4-year program. And so I was there for 4 years. And then there's something that is called a fellowship that I did. And so all eye doctors go to medical school, and then all eye doctors who are ophthalmologists go to residency. And then subspecialty within ophthalmology, there's a bunch of different subspecialties, and I chose to become a vitreoretinal surgeon. That was a 2-year fellowship that was done at Barnes Jewish Hospital. It was called the Barnes Retina Institute. It's now called the Retina Institute, and it was a combined fellowship of a private practice group as well as an academic group. And so that's really what turned me on into the business of ophthalmology, was the mentors that I had during my 2 years of fellowship. We would not only talk about cases on Saturday morning, but we would talk about some of the business aspect. And I knew that after I went to fellowship at Barnes that I would end up in a private practice somewhere, because I just enjoyed the business aspect of it, and I enjoy the autonomy that comes with it.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because you grew up here, you went away, you went to Madison, and then you went down to North Carolina. So let me ask you this. And you came back here about 2012, I think you said.
Correct. Yep.
So you went away and you came back. What's your perception as a Wausonian coming back home as to where we're at in this community with what we're trying to build for the future? What's your take on it?
It's interesting. When I was in high school, I talked with my friends who were in DECA and a little bit more business involved than me. And I said at the time, I was like, we need to have something on the riverfront downtown. You know, this was in 1996, 1998. And here we are, you know. It is nice to see that the downtown has developed the way that it has. It is nice to see the whole riverfront as being an intermingling of essentially small town mom and pop type shops. But what has surprised me is how well we've been able to develop kind of downtown and the riverfront. But it's a little concerning that the city of Wausau continues to get older without having some sort of youth resurgence. And maybe it's on its way. I hope that it is. We definitely have the foundation for it. But that's kind of my thoughts of right now of the city.
No, we appreciate that. It's important to get that feedback, especially from those that have grown up here and then returned. You know, emotionally, you have some connections here, but we're trying to build a community here that will attract and retain next generation of talent, try to create an environment of vibrancy, forward-looking rather than backward-looking. So we welcome any feedback anytime you, your friends might have in the future. So what did it mean for the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin when all of a sudden in middle March, boom, what did you do to innovate or to reposition yourselves?
March is interesting. And by we, I mean myself, my partners, both ophthalmology partners as well as optometric partners. We got together with weekly meetings, and we typically have a meeting once a quarter. And so we were going from having 4 meetings a year to a meeting every single week to figure out just how to stay afloat in the moment. We try to use science throughout the entire process. And that's a little bit hard because, you know, I know that science turned into politics very quickly. And you know, first and foremost, we wanted to keep our patients safe, but we also wanted to continue to do what we're doing. And actually, in ophthalmology, it's interesting because if you think about it, when kiddos get sick at school, they will get sent home for one reason, and that's pink eye. So the minute that a kid is snot-nosed, running, coughing all over the place, nobody cares. But as soon as their eye becomes pink, it's like, oh, you're contagious. You got to get out of here. So we've actually, pink eye have been set up to quarantine, isolate, and still take care of people that are contagious. And we kind of did that from the beginning. We realized that from a perspective of just perception, we needed to care for our patients that absolutely needed to be cared for, and we continue to do that. So we never fully shut down because there's always ophthalmic emergencies and there's always urgencies. In fact, one of the things that I do as a retinal specialist is take care of a disease process that is called macular degeneration, and those patients require typically the eye every 4 to 6 weeks. And so there's a 2-week window that's in there. But beyond 2 weeks, if you fail to treat patients, they start going blind, and they go blind very quickly. And so we didn't have 6 months, a year to wait for policies to be developed. We said, okay, within 2 weeks, we have to continue doing what we're doing. And we did do that. So we were able to develop a policy of isolating and quarantining people. We had a pretty good idea as to what the questionnaire should be. And then we just took care of patients. And as part of that, a lot of our routine eye care did get put kind of on the back burner for about 2 months. And so elective procedures got shut down, as well as what we consider quote unquote routine care. And then after 8 weeks, we realized that the process of opening in the phases through the state of Wisconsin, as well as throughout the United States, it was just going to be tailored differently. And so we weren't Madison, Wisconsin. We weren't Milwaukee. We surely were not New York City. And we realized that we could safely still take care of patients. And then what we did is we did what we were supposed to do. And so we socially distanced. We took our waiting rooms, and they looked like a skeleton of what they used to. We became very efficient at managing and scheduling patients. And then we had only patients that required assistance have people with assistance be there. And so today, compared to a year ago, a patient will come in for their appointment. It's typically just the patient that's there. They'll wait less long, and we'll still see them. We'll still take care of them. And of course, we as providers need to keep ourselves safe. And so protective equipment we established. But again, we had a lot of those policies already in place through, pink eye type of cases, as well as other infectious type of cases. We know how to, gown, glove, use PPE, and all the rest of that stuff. So the biggest impact for us was that first 8 weeks from basically March until the middle of May, when we were figuring out, okay, how do we care for our patients? How long can we push them off? And then once we restart, we then had to take care of all the people that we hadn't been taking care of, and we had to do it very efficiently. We were able to, I think, successfully do that.
Terrific. How about let's talk real quick on innovations in technology. We're working here at the Chamber, and then with our economic development partnership, to build more of an innovation culture, knowing that manufacturing, healthcare, automotive, everybody's moving forward technology-wise. Are there some recent innovations or different pieces of technology that you'd like to share as to what you're doing to better serve your patients and their health and wellness?
Yeah, so from a technological perspective, we actually recently purchased and are beginning to implement a light adjustable laser, which is useful for patients who want to have better vision after cataract surgery. And so if you think of how standard cataract surgery is done, and even cataract surgery in and of itself is just an amazing thought process. You can take patients who have very poor vision, and within roughly 15 minutes, give patients very, very good vision. And with standard cataract surgery, almost every patient requires a little bit of a glasses prescription to just tweak so that they can get better vision. And there's a technology that's available where a lens is implanted in the eye that you can adjust the power of the lens with a UV light laser post-operatively. And so you can kind of put in a lens that is roughly fitted to a patient's eye, but then through different laser procedures get the astigmatism as well as that kind of fine tuning done. And that's a newer technology. There's only a few institutions in the United States that have that technology capable, and we at the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin have it, and we're going to begin implementing it within the next few months. So that's probably one of our most exciting pieces of technology that we have. We also have a bunch of newer providers who have started within the Eye Clinic of Wisconsin within the last 2 years, and they are interested at doing research. And so we have a couple of our young providers that are working with the pharmaceutical industry, as well as just with scientific community at universities to develop some research protocols. A few of note that hopefully will be coming up, specifically working with macular degeneration, as well as different surgical techniques to help to improve macular degeneration. We at the Eye Clinic have always been forward thinking. That's one of the nice things about owning your own business, is that when newer pieces of technology, or when the ability to do something that's cutting edge, we don't have to wait for months and months of bureaucratic red tape. We get together, we decide whether we want to do it, and if we decide as a majority to do it, we do it. And that's really, really enjoyable because, like I said, other institutions, colleagues that I have who've gone into private practice, into academia, have waited months, if not years, behind what I've been able to do because of the fact that we're able to be so autonomous.
Yeah, that sounds incredible. So you can put a lens inside somebody's eye and you can adjust it with an infrared laser, you said?
Yeah, it's actually a UV laser. There's some challenges to it. So actually patients have to wear these protective goggles until the lens is quote unquote fixed. Because any UV light exposure then, kind of fixes the lens and it's kind of in there. But yeah, basically you can get within, a few diopters originally with normal lenses, or even a portion of a diopter, but that last little bit can then be adjusted through predetermined refractions that are done, as well as with a UV laser to then change the power of the lens while it's inside of the eye, which is pretty crazy. I mean, it's like, if you think about, you're younger and you get contact lenses, you wear that, of course, on the surface of your eye. Imagine having something that you can put in your eye and then get adjusted and then have it fixed. Yeah, pretty cool.
Absolutely. Sounds really neat. Other than that, we covered a lot of ground in the time here. Let me ask you, so you're from Wausau, you grew up here. What's your favorite Wisconsin sports team? Brewers, Packers, Bucks, Admirals?
That's hard. I gotta go with my Badgers. But that's a split. I mean, I love the Packers as well. I was the 2001 homecoming king, so I'm a Badger through and through. And I'm a big Wisconsin football fan. I always have been. I am, stoked of where the Badgers are. I know this year was a wee bit of rebuilding for us, but I think Graham Mertz has a ton of talent. I think that Chris is an amazing coach, and I think that Jim Leonard is an amazing coach. And hopefully Alvarez and the alumni can come up with enough money to keep both Chris and Leonard at Wisconsin for a while, because between Mertz and the new running back that they have, Wisconsin's going to be good in the next few years. And they always have a great offensive line. So it's nice to root for the Badgers. The Packers, of course, I love as well. I'm a big football fan, and it's a good time to be a Wisconsinite. Between the Bucks, the Brewers, the Packers, and the Badgers, I mean, it's really good. And then, the Wisconsin basketball team, the men's basketball team is phenomenal, and hockey's good every year. So,
yeah.
It's like asking who your favorite kid is, It's a hard question to answer. But if I got to be forced to answer it, it's got to be the Wisconsin football team.
That's good. And noteworthy that you were then the 2001 homecoming king at UW-Madison.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, Dr. Aschbrenner, thanks for your time. Been very enlightening conversation. You sharing your personal story. And then the pandemic and the eye clinic and some of the new technology. Look forward to seeing you more in the community. Like I said, if you have any feedback for us or your friends have feedback for us as to what we're trying to do to build a stronger community for this century, for your kids, for your family, you let us know, okay? Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Definitely. Thank you for spending the early part of this afternoon with me. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely. You take care now.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
This podcast episode is a production of the Greater Wausau Chamber of Commerce.